What's good, everyone? My name is Chase Lito, and you're listening to Kinda Sorta Brown with the University of Chicago's Public Policy Podcast.
Hello, welcome back to Kinda Sorta Brown. Today, we are Black in business. I am your host, Dinah, and this episode is going to dive all into the intersections of identity inherent to being a Black female entrepreneur and, trying to take ownership of the things that we create as Black creators. If you don't know, I own my very own business. It's called Ticole Couture, previously known as The Hook Up. And when it comes to being a small business owner and a Black business owner in particular, we come into new territory of what it means to really take ownership and to reap the benefits of the economy that has been built off of our backs. So once again, thank you for joining us, and let's dive right in. KST. It's piping hot. So there are many topics that fail to be discussed in the Black community, especially the topic of wealth. What does it mean to acquire wealth? How do we acquire wealth? How do we invest? How do we learn about real estate and all of these other terms? How do we create and keep our own businesses in which we can make profits on and pass that down to future generations? Well, there is an obvious gap when it comes to business ownership. And according to mbda.gov, only 15% of the nation's businesses are owned by minority groups, or minority-owned firms are only made up of 15%. So what does this gap mean? What does this gap tell us about the configurations that exist in our society and in our economy? Now, we can go back to the historical context. We can talk about slavery. We can talk about the call for reparations that requires that Black people be paid for what was taken from them. But at the end of the day, when we look at what's lacking now, is that we see that there are two fundamental things missing. One is the entrepreneurial mindset among the Black community, and the other is support both within the Black community and around it. Now, it's not like we haven't tried to create businesses before, and that's why support is so integral. But when we see that there's a lack of support for Black lives in general, that begins to manifest into the creations as well. So in this episode, we're actually going to talk about what it means to be a Black business owner, specifically in small businesses, as there aren't that many Black-owned businesses that are, at the level of Amazon. And owning a business and being a small business owner is extremely hard. At the end of the day, when you first start out a business, you're doing a lot of things on your own. But the difference is this generational gap that's missing. In some cases, you do have the ability to learn from those, older than you, those who have passed down that kind of knowledge, or even in the schools that you attend, giving you some sort of resources or blueprint as to the direction you can go. But when it comes to small Black business owners, it's a lot of working from scratch. It's a lot of finding and figuring out things that you would have never known before, and really a trial and error. And it's also this fear of failing. What happens when you run out of money? What happens when you run out of willpower or discipline to continue on this path? And what happens if you aren't getting the support you need?
It's the Brown Breakdown.
Okay, so now we are on to the next
segment, The Brown Breakdown. And today we have a special guest. Please welcome Chelsea B. She is a Chicago-based crochet artist and designer. It is such a pleasure to have you on. I am, for one, so excited. I am a huge fan of you and your work. And I would just like to begin by having you tell us a bit about yourself and your business and what got you into fashion in the first place.
Well, first off, thank you for having me. I'm so humbled and grateful for this interview. I think this is like my second ever interview. So thank you for reaching out. I'm truly humbled. So the way I got into, let's start out how I got into fashion. Raised poor. I'm just gonna be blunt right there. Didn't really have much, but I've always been into the arts. I've always been into art, painting, designing, sketching. And it wasn't until I got to, I want to say, middle school that I just wanted to experiment with clothing per se. Like, I was just coming into my style, and that was very much bright. Very much didn't know what I was doing, but I just knew I had a vision for something. And then that is when my dad gave me my first sketchbook, and I began to sketch out clothing. Mind you, I didn't know how to sew. I did not know how to crochet. I did not know how to do anything. I just knew how to work with some color pencils and a few markers. And whatever was coming up on the page, that was what it was. And then, you know, as you hit puberty, you realize that you're skinnier than the other girls around you. And so a lot of things that could fit me wasn't necessarily my style. And so from there, I just decided that I was going to cut up pants and things. My grandma used to take me to the thrift shop, and I used to just get a bunch of thrift clothes and like put them together, hand sew them. And then it was in my sophomore year of high school is when I got 2 sewing machines for Christmas. And from there, junior year of high school is when I actually, or when my teacher actually taught me how to crochet. And right then and there, I was only making hats, scarves. I think I experimented with some bows, but that was my thing. I didn't really go into clothing just yet, but it was just some meditative process that I could do to help me with stress and help me express myself creatively. It's a long story, but I hope that was like the short end of it.
Yeah, that's actually so beautiful. I got into fashion a lot in the same way, just a lot of things that can fit me. And that's one great thing about crochet is you can literally custom make anything and everything. And I'm curious, like, how and why did you turn this in, you know, from a passion project where it was a stress reliever to creating your business?
Well, first off, people told me I couldn't do it. Like, that was the thing. And one of the things that motivates me the most is when you tell me I can't do it. And so when I was in high school, everybody knew I had a passion for fashion. So that is when I stepped out on faith and decided to apply to the Savannah College of Art and Design. I didn't have, you know, a high school that taught me about arts, anything like that. I just knew that this is something that I wanted to pursue, and it was a dream of mine. And it wasn't until I had this vision to create a gown. And that was, I believe, in the summer of 2016. And I was like, I want to create a mermaid gown. Like, I'm going to crochet it. I don't know how I'm going to get it done, but I just see this vision in my head, and I'm going to do it. And so I did it in a matter of 2 days. Like, I set up and I was like, I worked on my speed for I started crocheting in 2014. And over that time, after making scarves and hats and whatever, that's how I perfected my speed, because that was something that I worked on over the weekend. And so in the summer of 2016 is when I really sat down and I was like, I'm going to make this dress. And I did it in 2 days. I wasn't amazed because I knew that I could do it. But when I told people that I did it in 2 days, they was like, what the heck? How did you do that so fast? Because I wasn't aware of any other crocheters at the time. And so once I did that and I posted it on Facebook, that is when the dress went viral. And I was completely in shock. It was like, they was like, oh my God, I never seen anything like this. And so right then and there, that's when it clicked. I was like, I enjoy doing this. And I wanted to change the narrative of what you thought crochet could be. Because everybody thought of crochet as like a blanket or a scarf or a hat. But I was thinking of crochet in the sense of it could be a fashion statement. It could be a dope code. It could be anything that you want it to be. You just have to believe that it can be that thing and actually put your mind to it. And so, yeah, that's how, once that dress went viral and people started to request things from me and really take an interest into what I had to offer next, that is when I decided to start my crochet business, which was originally called Chelsea B Creations, and now it's House of Chelsea B.
That is so amazing. I love that you have that passion and fire behind you. And I can definitely see it in the types of things that you can create. You definitely have a very unique style. Like, even if I saw your clothes on someone that wasn't you, I can for sure tell that it's made by you. So I'm curious, like, where does that style come from? Do you have any, fashion designers that you admire, or just clothes that you see that kind of spark this style that you've manifested to be completely your own?
Yeah, so my style inspiration comes from a lot of hip hop culture, but a few of the designers that I truly look up to are Kirby John Raymond of Pierre Moss and Virgil Abloh, and we're going to dabble into why I changed the name. So it started off as Chelsea B Creations, and then the way that I started to see my style shift is when I freelanced for Nike, or the Nike Lab. And that's when I really was getting into my, like, tomboyish, sensual vibe. Like, I think of my style as, like, it's a tomboy. Like, I don't dress super girly, but I'm a girl, and I'm going to look fly in some baggy pants or a vest, and I could switch it up and wear a gown, with some sneakers if I wanted to. And so, really, when I really began to develop my aesthetic, I'm not even going to say style, my aesthetic, is when I freelanced for Nike, because I started to really get into our current hip-hop culture, our current streetwear brands. I started to really research them, like Yoon of Ambush, and Jerry Lorenzo of Fear of God, and Off-White with Virgil Abloh. And so I really enjoy their styles, and I really admire my brothers. I have a twin brother. I'm the only girl, so I really admire how my brothers dress. And a lot of, as you can see, a lot of people and artists that I look up to are male. I just admire the work ethic, and I really just admire how, they came up with things creatively. And so I just was like, I have to be consistent in my work. I want it to be of quality, but I want it to be me. So yeah, a lot of people that I really do look up to are Jerry Lorenzo, Pierre Moss, which is Curry John Raymond, Virgil Abloh, and I love their aesthetic consistency. I love just their use of color, and I'm a bright person. I love to use color. I want to make streetwear look sexy, but also just be my own unique self in doing it,
I think that is literally so beautiful. And, on that line, like, I think it's so interesting that the format you went with was fiber arts and crochet, especially because, it's extremely time consuming. And now that you've turned this into a business, I'm wondering, has it had any impact on your mental, spiritual, physical health for the better or worse?
Woo, I love this question. It's just to get straight to the point. Yes, man, over the past year and a half of me graduating from the Savannah College of Art and Design, it has been a mental battle, but I have stayed in a fight. I think that 2020 is when I came out on the greater end of this mental battle, because people don't realize as creatives, we go through a lot of mental fights, because it's like, am I staying true to myself? Am I keeping the integrity of my brand? Am I keeping the integrity of the type of designer that I am? And then you have social media, and you're like, they're doing this, and that's trendy, so should I do that? Because, I want to make my work known. And so, in a way, my creative process was affected a little bit, because I was in a creative funk. And that's why I was so grateful to the people that took me in over in Nike and helped me to really become the artist that I am. I'm a modern scad, right? I give credit to them because they helped me understand what it was to create this into a business, but also do it in a way that you continue to be unique. But it wasn't until I really started freelancing at Nike and just expressing myself and them allowing me to do whatever I wanted that I was able to become stronger again and able to become the artist that I wanted to be. But also I was just able to be free and be fearless in me creating and be okay with it. You know what I'm saying? And understand that, yeah, I'm going to have mental battles, and people are going to do something similar to me, But if I stay true to myself and the integrity of my brand and continue to hone in on my aesthetic consistency, I'll be okay. You know what I'm saying? Just, yeah, that. And praying. And I was praying a lot, like, Jesus, Lord, I need your help. But, yeah.
I really see it. It's really beginning to take off, which I'm so happy to see. You deserve it 10 times over. And, you know, if you were going to, in a few words, like, describe the aesthetic or even the mission of your business,